So the next clip, I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm sure the hardcores know, but like basically then these two slackline clips back to back, because people hadn't seen the sort of ratchet strap stuff before. It was a cool 1-2 punch for me, because what I wanted to use it in a hippie jump sense, yeah, because it's like, I felt it was relatively obvious, you know, to do flips with it and whatever. But I was like, dude, what I really want to do is actually skateboard on it and have it the most skateboard-like obstacle, so that if people watch this, they'll have the idea of like, oh my gosh, bouncing is so fun. He's right. So the next clip, I don't know if it was Richie suggested it. I mean, I had a different version of it. What the one that I ended up doing is actually later in the part, the one that I had an idea for. But this one was sort of like an in-betweener, where I think it was just kind of like, hey, let's do something that's like kind of basic on the corner hip, but it's also rad because you can bounce the crap out of it and be able to catch it, and people can enjoy the fact that that ratchet strap can just throw you into the air. So let's really, let's really do it. So this front board to 270, I guess it's a 270 shove. I mean, it looks like it goes all the way around. I don't know. My standards for 270 shoves, by the way. But I feel like, yeah. Anyways, with this trick, things that I'm most excited about is that shirt color. I wish I still had that shirt. Super into it. And then second, the shoes. I think they were painted shoes. I was so psyched on them. And then third, with this trick, the Death Wish board, that freaking hot pink and yellow. Yes, please. And there's no way there's that much thought put into it, but if you're going to show that much of the bottom of a skateboard and a trick and a bounce, perfect. Come on. So the satisfaction of this trick, obviously when I finally landed it, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I was just sick of doing it. And it seems like it would work easy because you're bouncing. The trucks will get caught up. It'll ping pong all the way around the ratchet strap. Your board will try and just fully popsicle you at some point, you know, because if your front foot or back foot comes off at any point, the rest of your skateboard will just catapult into oblivion and hit you in the back of the leg or in the knee or whatever. So when I got this just right, and I finally didn't have any pivot on the 270 shove or whatever, I was freaking psyched out of my mind, because the satisfaction of this, I just had no idea. And the way Richie was filming it, looking straight up and down like that, where it just looked like I was flying into the sky, I was so pleasantly surprised. We'll just say that. But I digress. Here we go. All right, so the next one is a little bit like of a Spiderman plant to fakie situation. And, you know, at this point in skateboarding, from what I'd seen and whatever else, but what I really liked about this is, A, because I think the wall was slanted back a little bit, where there's a little more time to like stick to the wall, that I was just thinking to myself, like, dude, it'd be so rad to, like, I've seen a lot of foot plant tricks, but I don't see people do them completely blind, where you just cannot see your skateboard and you're just trying to grab it out of the air. And I think I did it nollie, which for me, normally if you approach any sort of like a wall plant situation, I don't think people do them nollie, because it's just hard to go off your nose. And then second, when people grab their skateboard, they usually just use one hand. But for this one, I just thought the novelty of, and I'm not saying it looked cool, everyone. Don't think I'm thinking that. But in the originality and just thinking, here's an interesting concept. Let's pop our board where we can't see it, catch it, and then throw it back under yourself blind. Even though in this footage, when you watch, you kind of go, well, sure, that makes tons of sense. You just grab it and you throw it under yourself. No, there's a huge amount of trust with yourself to even catch it, because you're not looking at it. And then second, to actually be able to throw it back underneath you. Because I threw under a bunch, like too late, super scared. And then my legs would shoot out from underneath me. And I just go like face down against the upper transition. So the slams on that, I mean, I know I make a lot of things look easier than they probably, or less complex than they really are. But this one definitely was one of those where if you really thought about doing it yourself, and I'm sure there's a million talented people out there that could figure it out now. But at that point, when there was no sort of template or schematic for it, I was like, dude, this is so sketch that I'm having to grab this baby out of the air without looking at it and then throw, like with one hand on a skateboard and you have all the leverage to move it around your body, fine. But if you grab it with both hands behind yourself, you're committing to jumping to your board without seeing it first. And that was really tricky for what it was. So I was really proud of that being an original trick. And then also like just dealing with the slip outs was a real bummer. The last thing I'll say about the Spiderman plant to fakie is that it's also, if you notice, it's one of the only long lens shots in my part. And that's because Richie was actually filming on that obstacle, lights off. And I started kind of getting close because I was going to back him up in his battle commander. And so actually this trick came about because I was sitting there. He's like, man, I really don't want to skate this by myself. Well, we're skating it in the dark. When they turned the lights on, I was warmed up enough to start trying it for this part instead. And I thankfully got it before we got kicked out of there. Okay, so this next trick is a 3 flip down 7. If you have seen any of my video parts, bless you if you have, I appreciate it. But if you've ever followed my skateboarding, you probably know or could count on one hand or a couple of fingers how many times you've seen me do a 360 kickflip. And you've certainly probably never seen me do it down a set of stairs. Now, because I was in the barracks, I really did want to kind of do a bunch of like things that I thought would catch people off guard and surprise them, because the barracks has been murdered and everyone incredible has been there. So for me, what I was really trying to do is kind of surprise people in a space that everything had been done in. So that's why I kind of made this part the way I did. But this was the only trick in my part that I was thinking to myself, like, hey man, we as skateboarders, we always see someone who has a very special skill or whatever they're really good at. If you're a really amazing ledge guy, you're the PJ lad, or you're like, someone who's just incredible at only transition, or you're freaking that guy that everyone's like, yeah, well, he's the manual guy, but what's up with the rail skate? Like, you can't help as a skateboarder kind of going, let's see him be well-rounded. Like, we just all do it because we're thinking, that was really great, I hope I'm that good. Like, the insecurity makes you ask that question. So for me, my own insecurity was telling me like, all right, dude, like you did all these other tricks that no one has seen and probably surprise them and entertain them. I don't think you're probably getting the pro shoe from this one, but people might be entertained. That I sort of, I said to myself, let's do something down this set of stairs that even if people hate your guts or think this whole thing is retarded, they're also probably not going to argue with that. And so 3 flipping this set of stairs was sort of my answer to that question in a certain way. And yeah, I did go to the trouble of doing some other flip tricks in here, regular stuff in a line or whatever. But boy, did this 3 flip take a long time. And as anyone will tell you, this set of stairs has probably been 3 flipped in a line and 3 flipped to who knows what a million times. But for me personally, this was like, dude, the battle this was, and the training and like doing 3 flips all day. And I kept, what's crazy is I could pretty easily 3 flip and land on one foot with like my front foot on my skateboard and then dragging my back foot. I could roll away like that with no weight on my back foot, but it terrified me to put on my back foot. So I just tried and tried and tried. And I think this may have been a clip that either Chase was filming or Grant was filming. Like, I only filmed with Chase maybe once in here. Probably switch over to, but it was one of those things where Richie was trying something. And they're like, hey, really quick, let me get a few tries in. And this was one of those that just took took forever. It really did. And I got to tell you though, I'm the most proud of this clip because it's the least in my wheelhouse of things I'm probably like naturally good at or even want to try or I'm not terrified of, or have any comfort with. So that made me really happy to get that done. Plus the way I landed it may look a little bit struggly because I'm leaning forward, but I've got to tell you, I have never been happier to roll away from something, to be totally honest with you. So there's that. Excuse me,
Can we talk about your shirt off on this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, please. So here's another funny thing about the barracks is like, Munch, just don't touch the, thank you. Just maybe don't touch the tripod, right? Okay. So come here. Let me see. Anyways, so the reason why it's shirtless Rambo footy with a bandana on my head, I'm pretty sure, is because it's like the barracks, bless them, I was like, just so fancy and great, but I think that where they're saving the money is on the air conditioning because I was dying in there. Middle of the day, it was probably summertime, and I was just dying of heat exhaustion. So, as you can imagine, I was just like, some people are super into shirtless footy. I'm not one of those people that like, people are like, you got to show off what you got. I'm not saying people shouldn't do that. If you have that and you're like some workout guy and they're paying you $40,000 a post, I'd probably do it. But me, my family, we're not really show her off for people. So me being shirtless in clips, even though I obviously will do it, and there it is, I definitely, unfortunately, have thoughts about it before I do it, almost every time. All right, the old lip slide board break to 2 boards to ski your way on out of town. This one, I honestly can't remember. I was thinking back. I can't remember if this was Grant's idea or my idea. Maybe it was just a collection of the two, because I always think, people never really use board breaking as any sort of a trick, so I thought it'd be sort of fun to utilize it if we could. It's one of those things that's so, anytime you know about skateboarding, anytime you break a skateboard, it's usually 100% unless you're angry, or 2, it's a complete surprise. So this one was fun because what we were doing is we must have collected. I thought, like, all right, dude, I have a cracked board now. If I can lip slide, dude, I know I can land on 2 skateboards. Like, it can't be that hard. And you would not believe the amount of skateboards we went through. Oh, we found every old skateboard behind the barracks, every old board that was sitting in, they're usually at the barracks. Everyone who's been there, they're kind of stacked in the trash can together. And we had to go through and find the one that had, like, was cracked enough. And if it wasn't cracked enough, we're like, oh, there's just a little bit of a crack. Oh, there's no tail in this one, but we'll use the nose. You should be able to pop off of that. The amount of boards I ended up setting up and just trying to pre-crack, like, well, I would go and lip slide and it would just lip slide. And I was like, who thought of this idea? This is it's just like a bad use of physics. But what ended up happening is that I'd set up one and I'd break it, and I would miss one board or miss the other board. It would break too soon. Or I kept doing this where I would be rolling up to the flat bar, and it's a relatively, for me and how I pop, relatively tall flat bar that would get intimidated. Or sometimes I would have broken, like, literally I'm like trying to crack skateboards just enough to make this work, that by the time I rolled up to it and go to pop, the middle of the skateboard would actually just bend to the ground, and then I would just break the board ahead of time and be done. So there must be, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 roll-ups that the board breaks before I ever start. The hardest part about this whole thing was just getting a skateboard that was just broken enough to actually break when you lip slide, and then also aim, because we couldn't figure out how much actual slide you were going to get before it broke to go on the 2 boards. So placing the boards was sort of just a total guess in the beginning. And then I think a couple of them, I had one where my foot would land on one board but not the other, or on the tail, and then they would, like, shoot out and almost rack me, like the old fall on your back rack. Always sick. Anyways, this trick, we were just thinking, and I tried to have him film it in a way. I was like, Grant, let's just make sure that they're thinking, hey, he's going to start a line while he's going to lip this flat bar and he's going to do something else. And so we tried to film in a way that coming at camera, because I thought, dude, hide those 2 skateboards. Let's have it so that just a punch in the face, they never see it coming, So it was kind of cool to set. The concept of it was so simple when you think about break a skateboard, land on 2 skateboards. How hard? And by the time we got done, I remember everyone walking in after that was like, why are there so many pieces of skateboards in here? And we're like,